Hi there. Welcome to Cleaved. This is another VN that I read in its infancy. If you'd believe it, it was a year ago now since I've touched this VN. And apparently a lot of changes have happened since then. It's been rewritten. I believe this is the build in which it is rewritten, so I decided, especially given that this was a VN that was recommended to me by someone in the comments. I will probably have their name flash up on the screen. Thank you very much for the recommendation. It is very ironic that you recommend this to me, given that I had left it for so long. This is definitely one that I intended to cover, so here we are. The ground rules as usual, and I swear I say this every time. This VN is an 18+ gay furry visual novel that contains adult topics and other such 18+ness that I very much strongly recommend you leave now if you are in any way put out by that, because it is not going to stop me from tackling it with my full chest. Why don't we just get into this instead of sitting here with my buttery voice over this glorious music, shall we? My name is Pink Wisp, this is Cleaved. Let's begin. Lights, camera, action.
Warning. Warning. Danger detected. Alarm raised in lab sub-level 3. Warning. Warning. Danger.
I'm forcefully awoken from my sleep. I hear an alarm ringing off in the distance. An incessant siren to notify all personnel on site of an imminent accident. I fall from my unmade bed, scrambling to grab some clothing. I quickly slip on a shirt, trousers, shoes, and nab my glasses. As I run to the door, I grab my lab coat and finally step outside of my cramped room. While the university may have been large, it certainly was not generous with its student housing. Thankfully, it didn't take me long to rush past the security doors and other frantic students and personnel. They were either trying to escape the premises or direct the flow of traffic out of the building. Most students took the instructions easily. Unfortunately for me, I'm not most students. My fellow students can only imagine what kind of accident has occurred to set off alarms at our prestigious university, yet this curiosity does not deter them. The students of Rockford Hills are hand-picked by the dean of the university, as they seek gifted individuals and cultivate projects with the greatest potential. I am fortunate enough to count myself amongst these students. I'm even more fortunate that my chosen field of research is one that has received a lot of press from both my colleagues and my professors. I was happy to have my colleagues be so interested in the success of my project, however, it quickly turned into a necessity rather than a passion. And maybe my work became less about furthering my own ideas and more about others deciding the results of what I did. As miserable as I've been, falling more and more into this cesspit that they'd created with this incessant urge to check off their lists, I guess I was happy to know that it was nearly done. However, this knowledge made the current situation all the more infuriating. The second I thought I was finally onto something, my work was about to blow up in my face. Literally. Fortunately, I finished my long run from the east side of the student housing and finally make it to the physics center. Looking around the open foyer, an abundance of scattered papers and upturned office equipment meet my gaze. The building's been completely evacuated. Come on, I have to make it! My throat burns from yelling that as I make it to the elevator door, slamming my fist into the panel. Sub-level 3, gotta get there, fast. Shit! As redundant as that word is, it's all I can say as I'm faced with this situation before me. In the center of the room stands my machine, a construct made with the intention of exploring the furthest edges of reality. Cost me almost everything here. Time, space, money, friendships. But there it was, And as I suspected, something's wrong. How did this happen? I made sure to shut it down. There shouldn't be any power in any of his segments. Suddenly, like a macabre puppet show, loose objects get yanked into the air and are consumed by the ever-growing expanse of a wormhole. Okay, shit. The emergency shutdown switch, it's the only thing that could override whatever is powering the... My train of thought derails as ceiling panels fall down and are absorbed into the growing mass before me. It's getting stronger! My careful planning is replaced by frantic movements, my limbs moving on autopilot to salvage my pride and joy. The longer I take, the worse it'll get. I rush over to the main console and unlock the generator room. An admittedly dusty room, one I never cared to clean. Pushing myself inside, I grab a breaker switch and move to deactivate the machine's primary power supply. What the... auxiliary power? My machine had emergency backup power in the event of a blackout, connected to a separate generator. This was so it could draw the necessary power during tests, though it's always left off when it's not being used. The emergency power had been turned on. My heart sinks. I burst into a sprint to the other circuit breaker. Gripping the handle, I wrench it down to shut down the machine. Nothing. My machine isn't turning off. It's still sparking, creating alert after alert.
Warning, danger detected.
I retreat to the main console, slumping down in defeat as I stare at the marvel I created, now the image of a nightmare. I can't stop this cataclysm. The wormhole has accumulated too much energy. Where did it all go wrong? How did it all go wrong? I stare into the cause of my imminent demise. My mind wanders off in a string of thoughts. How big is the explosion going to be? If I ran away, would I even get far enough to escape it? Am I going to die? It makes my back shiver and my eyesight becomes cloudy. Damn it, am I crying? Through blurry vision, I look around the room, thinking back to all the memories I made with my colleagues. I think back to Wally's ideas on how to design global telecommunications that wouldn't rely on satellites. I remember how Caitlin would show me her progress on genetically engineered bacteria to aid brain development and controlled mutation. She said it was her attempt at curing diseases. And then Sanders. Never spoke to him much, but he was a true scientist. The crazy bastard was doing his best to combine various dangerous elements to see if he could create an infinitely renewable clean energy source. I remember when I met everyone, it was a big series of highs and handshakes. Except for Sanders. What did he say back then?
I understand we'll be working in Lab 16 together, correct? I know that my work is very dangerous. I've requested there be a lockdown button installed on the inside and outside of the lab. It'll lock down the blasted room in the event of an explosion. The materials are designed to absorb kinetic energy, so while there's no guarantee, it should help.
Why is there one on the inside?
In case we can't get out and need to play the hero, that's why. You can't change someone else's life unless you're willing to sacrifice your own.
Wise words, Sanders? A tad too pessimistic for my liking. But wise words nonetheless. A heavy scratching sound drags me back from the thoughts of better times. I duck out of the way as the catwalk above me is torn from its hinges and dragged across the floor towards the portal. I guess I don't have a choice. Sanders' mantra comes to the forefront of my mind. I dry my tears, snapping myself back to reality. Something needs to be done, right? While there may be no guarantee, if I can at least engage the lockdown, there's a chance of mitigating it. I use the desks as braces and force myself over to the wall.
Warning, reactor overload. Collapse imminent.
Fuck, come on! With one final push, my fist meets the lockdown button. Metallic shutters drop across the doorways, windows, and walls, sealing me in this tomb.
Reactor overload. Collapse.
God help me. It's cold. Wait. It's cold? Why is it? How?
So, by starting off the reactor's power system early, you get involved to try and stop it. And you set off a new chain of events.
Hey, wait a second.
Are you awake? Well, this was unexpected. Listen, I don't mean to interrupt whatever this is, but I need you to do something for me. The chain of events is getting more and more stretched thin. With all due respect, you might be on the verge of losing yourself. Before you doze off, I need you to remember your name for both of us. Brynn. So that's what your name is. It's been so long I honestly couldn't remember. Regardless, I don't really care for much else, nor do I know what's about to happen to you. However, this should be interesting to watch. So don't die too quickly.
My eyes jolt open, and my gaze spins wildly around in this strange, unfamiliar place. I'm still not entirely sure what happened. I engaged the lockdown in time, right? Then the reactor exploded and I saw a bright light. Throbbing pain surges in my head as I struggle to remember it all. Damn it! What the hell happened? The explosion should have killed me. I should be dead. But I'm here. Whoever the hell here is. It felt pointless to think of it. I looked down at my body. My tattered clothes revealed not the slightest hint as to why I was still alive. And then I felt it. My breathing hitches. The sensation of cold grasping my body combined with my own anxiety. I can barely think straight. I'm hyperventilating. The numbing cold was unbearable. It felt like death. Come on, keep it together, damn it! I hope to whatever god there is that this is a nightmare, or potentially the delusion of a fracturing psyche. All I can think to do is repeat the bits of information I knew to keep myself together. I pull the weathered remnants of my coat together, heaving to keep myself warm as I snap back to reality. I can't fight off the cold dread any longer. It's so cold out here. So cold. And everything fades away as consciousness leaves me. I stir. I hear the strange sound of birds. An uncanny and unfamiliar chorus of chirping and tweeting fills my ears, and I can't help but groan. I wake up and launch myself up onto my feet. Despite my better conscience, lightheaded, I fall to my knees, using my hands to stabilize myself on the ground. Trying once again, only this time much slower, I stand up and look around, confused. I'm in the clearing of a forest? Seeing the sun in the sky, shining through the gap in the canopy above me, was comforting. The nightmare of being trapped in that cold space which had felt so real, now felt like an illusion. However, that cold place was any of that real? And if so, why can't I remember why I'm in these woods? Am I forgetting something? Panic creeps up my spine as I climb up the bank of the small crater-like divot I find myself in. The grass presses up against my skin, a nice break from the feeling of nothingness that surrounded me before. The air is cold, bitter even. It's not unbearable, but given the current state of my clothes, they won't do much to keep me warm. Okay. Need to get my bearings. I examine my glasses, checking the lens for damage. Damn. There's a fair crack, but I reckon I can still use these. Oh, wait! I begin to slap each of my pockets, eventually finding the hard, rectangular shape in my right pocket. My phone! Oh, thank God. I turn it on, ignoring the cracked screen until I notice the black blotches on parts of it. Damn, you really took a beating from that fall. I must have landed on it when I was in that hole. Could a slip really do that much damage? How hard did I hit the ground? Before my mind can race further, I decide to check out if my phone's apps are still usable. No signal. Fuck. I suppose it still functions as, well, a phone, flashlight, camera, notepad. It's better than nothing. The timer reads 0000, January 1st, 1970. It reset. Okay, that's not right. I take a look around me before heading north. Or at least in the direction I believe is north. With some luck, I could find a vantage point where I could get a signal or see a building nearby. Maybe a cabin, or if I was lucky, I'd find how far I strayed from the town. Or if I was really lucky, I'd find my dorm and colleagues who could explain to me what in the hell just happened. Shortly followed by their expression of how worried they were and questions of where the hell I'd been. But to my dismay, there was none of that. What in the world is going on here? My panicked voice does nothing to hide my timidness as I sink back against a tree, fighting to catch my breath. Okay, calm down. I look out to the town in front of me. There's no way I'm chancing staying out in the woods for a night in this place, wherever that may be. To avoid falling over, I carefully make my way down the hill. The woodland brush is thick, the trees are large and overgrown. Evidence of the rich life they led was situated in these lands, providing cover for the shrubbery underneath to grow and develop into a lively ecosystem. It's rather peaceful, save for my own pants cutting across the sounds of nature. I can see my breath appear in front of me with each thick exhalation. A reminder of just how cold it truly is. I really need to get something warmer. This damned coat's really not going to last in these conditions. As I reach the bottom of the hill, my eyes dart about the surrounding vegetation to see if there's a direct path out of the tree line. To my shock, there isn't. But in this field of shrubs, a lot of the flora is familiar. Nettles, clovers, nothing too out of the ordinary considering the types of foliage you'd find on the university grounds. Although there are these specks of blue among it all, which piques my interest. I look closer to see a blue flower that I was not at all familiar with. Something like this wouldn't have grown naturally on university grounds, and its tall bloom must mean it's in season. Surprising considering the temperature. I picked one and examined the blue petals up close. An azure beauty. Something that wouldn't be ignored in a florist's, perhaps. Thoughts for another time, maybe. I discarded, continuing my walk out of the forest. As my legs stumble over the overgrown roots of the trees, my eyes are glued to the sky, trying to see if I can get a good glance of the sun through the canopy. I can only guess that it's sometime around midday, judging by the shadows, meaning I've missed the whole morning. Coincidentally, it would also mean... Oh, I miss breakfast. An audible groan escapes my lips as I add hungry to my list of personal problems. With nothing better to do, I contemplate foraging for berries or other foodstuffs. But not wanting to disturb my stomach with a wild berry, to which I don't know the effects of, it's best to consider alternative options. I'm so deep in thought that I don't clock my leg whacking along a thick root, causing me to tumble and roll forward into an old tree. Setting myself upright, I take my frustration out on the bark, bashing the side of my fist into it, only for a pain to smash onto my skull, leaving a nasty ache. Oh, fuck you, tree! I finish rubbing my head in pain and glare at the ground, wanting to see what the hell hit me. It's an apple. Yellowed, almost golden actually, a bit bruised and clearly unripe, but an apple nonetheless. I'm sorry, tree. I take a bite, the skin flaking in my mouth as the familiar sour taste coats my tongue. Tart. Very tart, but it's better than starving. I stand up, appreciating my changing luck, and continue on my march. But again, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Okay, Brynn, what do we remember? I remember heading to my research lab. Something there blew up, a big flash of light. I almost froze to death before a voice and more bright lights distracted me. Another sigh escapes me. Yeah, because that all makes sense. God, I sound like I belong in a fucking institution. Let's just hope this is a vivid dream. I exit the tree line and find a well-worn path that leads to the gate I'd seen from the hillside. Another minute or so, and I notice myself getting closer and closer to the city. The few shops and stalls they have outside these walls seem abandoned. Rickety, unkept, a few wooden frames clearly rotting. No one occupies them and there's no commotion out front, yet their equipment remains placed. Weird. Seeing no one at the gate, I press onward, walking through the old stonework. It's rather impressive to see. The stones are put together with some sort of high-quality concrete or mortar. That's when my eyes turn wide as I see some of the pedestrians walking the streets. They were tall and hairy? With tails? I looked down at the apple, questioning if the odd flavor had something to do with what I was seeing. My panicked expression draws attention from one of these creatures not even 2 meters away from me. Gods of the realm, what is that? Gods, come quick! I immediately back away as I see a crowd form. Mothers holding back their children, men giving me disgusted looks, and young lads who are simply puzzled.
Oi, beast! You'd better have those nasty paws of yours raised by the count of 3, or I'm gonna gut you.
I let out a gasp as I finally get a look at these beasts' faces. Muzzles, long fur, and in this case, a nasty, intimidating snarl, not unlike that of a wolf. As if on instinct, I follow their commands in a somewhat ironic scenario, swiftly raising my hands to look less threatening. I watch them slowly press in, walking towards me in a driven way. Whoa, please! I'm not here to cause trouble, I'm just lost and looking for...
Quit your bloody rambling, freak! On your knees. You're going to the dungeon.
I freeze up, honestly scared of what these men, these beasts, are going to do to me. Hey! Before I can say any more, I'm interrupted by the loud, thundering sound of feet hitting the ground in rapid succession. I look to my right, and within seconds, a flash of orange streams past my eye. A slim figure quickly jumps into the air and delivers a swift kick to one of the guard's faces, sending him back away from me. The other guard goes to rush this unknown person. He quickly presses his feet hard into the ground and launches himself backwards away from his pursuer and to my direction. That's when I see that his feet were of no ordinary human, but instead a set of paws, different from the men who tried to arrest me. They're smaller and a different color. I take this opportunity to look up his slender frame. His long legs lead up to a muscular but heavily protected torso, a free-flowing tail that sits at his behind, and to top it all off, a face that I could barely even get a glimpse of. I can see 2 pointed ears, blazing in colour, glorious like the sun itself as it contrasted the shroud.
Listen, friend. I have no idea who you are, but I suggest you book it.
He spoke quickly, but with a sense of urgency that let me know I was in true danger if I stayed here any longer. Before I can even think about making a break for it, his arm falls down to his side and grabs something off his belt. He raises it to the sky and throws it to the ground with considerable force. It releases some sort of thick layer of smoke that covers the open space in seconds.
Run!
You even think about running, runt, and I will make sure that whatever the hell I was going to do to you earlier is 10 times worse!
Fear quickly sinks in as I realize I was faced with a choice that could put my life in serious danger. Do I follow this unknown stranger in the hopes of securing shelter and maybe even finding my way back home? Or is it better to stay put and do what the guards ask of me to avoid putting a target on my back? What should I do? Okay. This is going to be this is the route split. If this is the same. I believe this is the same. This is the route split. And naturally, the route that I choose is follow the unknown stranger. Acting on sheer impulse, I decide to follow this stranger. Regardless of the guard's threats, I'd much rather trust a somewhat friendly face trying to give me an out. I'm broken away from my thoughts as I watch him turn on his heel and begin sprinting. I take this as my cue to run, and I break into a sprint to chase after my rescuer. Who are you? Name's Frazier, sort of an outlaw in these parts. What the hell is going on here? My lungs are on fire, my speech interrupted by deep breaths as I round corner after corner. After passing what looks like a market square, we reach a large strip. I'll hazard a guess they did something they didn't like. How is he not even panting? God, I'm out of shape. Does walking through a gate count? No. That's a big no-no. Outsiders with no residency or business inside the walls need some sort of woven companion to use the main gates. Just why the hell is everyone a wolf here anyway? What the hell are you, too? Hey, speak for yourself. Oh, we're not all wolves. I take a bit of offense to that. He lets out a chuckle as we continue to make light work out of our sprint. And that's a stupid question. Do you really not know where you are? Before I get a chance to answer his question, I hear the sounds of footsteps behind me. Against my better judgment, I turn my head and see that one of the guards has slowly begun to catch up to me. My eyes go wide as I consider my options. The fox leans in and grabs the apple caper out of my hand. He then picks up the pace, getting a good distance ahead of me. He can go even faster. With the grace of an acrobat, he jumps and spins around mid-air to face the guard behind us. Using as much force as possible, he throws the core. I turn to watch its trajectory perfectly align with the guard's demented face. He recoils in pain as his momentum is cut short, falling over and colliding with the ground. Impressed, I turn my head back to look at the fox. He simply shoots me a wink back before changing the subject. Look, we can save the questions for later. All you need to know is that I'm trying to save your ass. Now. As the sounds of footsteps increase, Frazier rounds a final corner and grabs me by the arm, jumping into a hidden alleyway. By the way, Haps's work is fucking incredible. With a bit of ease, he pulls me into his lap. I look up at him, puzzled, but he gives me a look of reassurance. This was both to break my fall and to simultaneously cover my mouth. We sit like that for a good 5 minutes as the sound of footsteps pass us by and slowly begin to fade away. All that can be heard now are the humble sounds of an active market. Birds chirping, Sounds of sweeping, the day-to-day takes of stock being shifted around in exchange for the clashing sounds of coins being passed from buyer to seller.
Well, I'm ready to move if you are. I know I'm comfy, but we can't afford to sit here all day.
I watch him and he's looking up at the sky.
It's gonna be night soon anyway.
Yeah, we can move. Wait, night already? How can you tell?
It's the winter season, lad. Temperature drops quicker, and then, by extension, so does the sun. I give it an hour, 2 at the most.
Huh. Well, that's actually pretty impressive. I feel so lost right now.
What even are you? Not to be rude, and I know I'm probably going to ask you a dozen times more, but I've never seen something like you. Like, ever.
Well, I'm human. He slowly gets up and begins stretching. He pops a squat in front of me to properly stretch his legs before standing back up and doing the same with his arms and torso.
Human. Can't say I've ever heard of it. You got a name?
My face drops, thinking he might actually know something about me. I sigh and answer him. My name is Brynn.
Brynn, huh? It's a pleasure to meet you. But let's get back to business.
My ears prick up and I immediately lift my head.
I have some friends outside of town, good buddies of mine who run a tavern in a more open area that isn't infested with guards. Grimm is a scholar. He did a lot of travelling before he ended up here.
Where exactly is here?
Oh, you must be dumber than a bag of rocks, huh?
I give him a frustrated stare. He simply snickers and stares back at me with an amused smirk before letting out a sigh.
It honestly depends on who you ask. Ask the wolves, and they'll tell you you're in the proud kingdom of Oxheimer. Bastard invaders. Though, if you ask any self-respecting person, they'll tell you that we're in the gracious land of Caledonia.
It seems like a sore subject for him to talk about, so I decide not to push for details on the matter. Okay, so what's the plan? If we're moving, where are we going?
Well, we need to get out of the city's walls. The way they see it, a possible spy and an outlaw of significance gave their elite guards the slip and are currently running rampant.
He lets out a frustrated sigh and walks over to the entrance of the alleyway. After seeing many armed guards patrolling the streets, he tucks my head back in.
Okay. If we step out and walk the streets, we're as good as dead. Doesn't help that you're a dead giveaway with those weird pieces of attire.
What do you mean weird? You never seen his shirt before?
No one like that, no. It's tight around the neck, reducing its breathability, it's thin and it tears easily, making it impractical in colder climates. Not to mention, it looks downright horrible. That colour looks terrible on you.
What? You jerk! Feeling slightly offended, I'm ready to go off in the fox before he shushes me.
Shut up, dumbass. Are you trying to get us caught?
My face goes bright red as I realize the detriment we're in. That's when I watch him approach me. He puts his hand on his back and I assume he's going to pull another tool from one of his many belts. What's a smoke bomb going to do for us here? My thoughts are interrupted as I see him pull a dagger. Panicked, I back away as he spins it in his paw at a right angle.
Oh, calm down, you big Jess. If I wanted to put you out of your misery, I would have done it already.
He quickly moves down the alleyway and I follow him.
Below us are a series of tunnels that run under the kingdom. They're used by my allies.
He pauses, raising the dagger close to my throat, causing me to go wide-eyed as I feel my body freeze up.
You have given me no reason to distrust you, but should I ever find out that you're responsible for the discovery of these tunnels that will put me and my friends in any danger?
He plunges the knife forward and I flinch.
I will not hesitate to send you to your god.
He spins the knife around so the handle is facing me and uses his other paw to offer me a hand up.
I'd apologize for scaring you, but... well, I had to make sure you were taking me seriously.
I take his paw. Fuck yeah, I took you seriously. I was about to piss myself. He lets out a snicker, shrugging his shoulders as he walks towards the grate. I let out a sigh as he leads me to the entrance hatch. He plunges his knife into a gap and lifts it, popping the grate from its hole and pushes it to the side. I watch in awe as the fox somehow manages to lift the heavy metal grate with ease. The fox's form is admirable. I can only imagine the impressive physique hidden under his clothing.
Mate?
He raises his paw and snaps his fingers to pull me out of my daze.
Okay!
To clarify, in the original build of this that I read, this scene had a very gratuitous description of Frasier's body and a very detailed description of Brynn being extraordinarily horny for this man. So that is a difference that I've noticed so far. Everything else seems to be somewhat the same, actually, come to think of it. I kinda missed that description because it gave us a very good description of his ass. Sorry, not sorry, not sorry, not sorry. He raises his paw and snaps his fingers to pull me out of my daze.
Come on, we've got sewer spelunking to do.
Fan-fucking-tastic.
Well, you do it a few times and you'll get used to it too.
He instructs me to go first. I approach and sit down to press my body forward. I fall onto the ladder, securing my feet and hands, and begin to climb down, listening above for the fox. He slowly follows, popping the cover back into the correct place to conceal our pathway of escape. So, Frasier, where are we headed exactly?
I'll hide out of mine. I'm not trying to get you some new attire to help you hide in plain sight.
I see. Say, how did you know I had that apple?
Pardon?
The apple you hooked at that guard's face.
Oh, right. I was running on a lot of adrenaline when I did that, but I suppose it's thanks to my nose. Situations like that always have my nose working overtime, and since there was no mistaking the smell of the apple you were munching.
I see. You must have a real strong nose then.
He gets the job done.
Another chuckle escapes him before I think about what'll happen next. So, what'll happen after we get to that safe house of yours?
Being in the city isn't as safe as you might think, unfortunately. After we get you sorted, we'll see if I can sneak us out by the east gate and get into Old Town. Maybe try and pass you off as some weird, naked mole rat.
That sounds disgusting.
Speaking of disgusting, watch your step.
I begin to wonder what he means as I'm still firmly on the ladder, only to feel my foot not connect with the next step. I'm tempted to let out a scream as I fall, but I'm stopped by a splash of water covering my pants as my butt hits the ground. Don't tell me I've just fallen into... I look at the fox snicker as he effortlessly hops down while I prop myself up.
That would be sewer water, my furless friend.
That's just great! I groan and pick myself up from the ground. He bursts into laughter, holding his gut while watching me quickly step through the water and back onto the paved pathway.
Gods above, that is hilarious.
I throw him a grimaced look, pouting as I start walking ahead, desperate to get out of this godforsaken place.
Alright, pup, your hilarious misfortune aside, keep going straight and we should be at the turn off for the East Market soon. If I've timed this right, the sun should be setting and the stall should be closing, so hopefully I can nab you some fresh attire. Gods, you stink.
I know, asshole!
How do you think I feel, short ass? I'm the one who's got a better nose than you.
To be fair, he has a point, not that I'd ever admit it, especially to him. Time passes in this dingy walkway. There's been no trace of the sun except for faint cracks of light escaping through holes that covered access to the sewers, as well as the occasional storm drain. I could feel it start to play annoyance on my mind. With the run away from those pesky guards and now the long walk here, I can feel my energy being drained. However, as if he could pick up on my emotion, he spoke.
Not much longer now, Brynn.
I look up to see the dimly lit shade of green that was his hood being covered by darkening shades of orange from the setting sun. Hey, Phrase, answer me something, would you? With honesty.
I'll do my best. No promises, though.
I can see his body tense ever so slightly, as if he was just readjusting his attire after that exhausting walk. Seems like it had shifted his armor into an uncomfortable position. Why did you save me?
Well, that's quite a loaded question, but not an impossible one to answer.
He makes a sharp turn and proceeds to walk down a new pathway.
In truth, it's because of the bastards in power. They've been in control of this place since before I was born. While I won't deny the credit that is due to the architects, the individuals in current power are nothing but entitled, self-centered pricks. The rightful citizens of this kingdom have been left in squalor and hardship, just plagued with constant taxes, harassment, and the forced belief that we should be grateful to the wolves who invaded these lands. They just want to live a lavish lifestyle without thinking the consequences will be paid forward by the people beneath them. I'm taken aback by the strong conviction that escapes the Vulpine's maw. I'm already intrigued to know more about what he's talking about. I know your time here has been short, but people like me have been experiencing the kind of harassment you face today for years, and we've never had a chance to combat it. The lucky few that are able to get into the nicer parts of the city are still scrutinized. And I feel that this kingdom needs individuals that will challenge these notions and do what's truly best for all the people of this land. I'd like to think I'm one of those individuals. I work with some people in one of the inns in Old Town. I look out for the vulnerable and supply the needy with the necessary items they need to get by. And you, my friend, just so happen to be my most recent rescue. He shoots me a wink and I can't help but blush at his flirtatious gaze, prompting me to let out a nervous chuckle. Well, it's much appreciated, Frasier. Thank you. He quickens his pace and he takes the final turn, and I follow him around the corner. Say, could you tell me more about the There'll be time when I can recall the tales of the snowball land the wolves came from. But for now, we've reached my hideout, so let's focus on getting ourselves out of this place, and maybe I'll tell you some over a hearty drink. His initial frustration was wiped away by the possibility of sharing a drink, something we could certainly use after a day like today. However, my thoughts are interrupted as the fox informs me that we've reached the end of the tunnel system. Okay, so if I've timed this right, we should have the cover of nightfall to conceal our presence. Now listen, when we get up there, I want you to stay right behind me. Use my cloak tails as cover as we approach. Now we're aiming for one of the abandoned houses close to the East Gates marketplace. I'm going to stick you in there and you're going to keep out of sight. And what are you going to do while I'm doing all of this? I'll be enacting stage 2 of my escape plan. I'm going to head down to the closing market stalls, see if I can't find you some kind of shawl or cloak to wrap around that pretty little head of yours. If I'm lucky, I might be able to steal you some kind of garment to replace those ratty rags. I watch his eyes look me up and down. By now, I can tell my clothes are on their last legs and are doing little to provide comfort and insulation. My shoes are no better. I can feel the discomfort from my feet caused by the ripped canvas-style material. Yeah, I'm kind of in need of some. But don't go about pilfering every store in the lot. There must be some good people in there somewhere, hard at work to make an honest living. I wouldn't want to take all that away from them just by being needy. The fox seems genuinely taken aback, as if he hadn't expected me to disagree with his plan. Nevertheless, he did seem amused by my take, but didn't want to let it show. Turning away from me, he moved swiftly up the ladder to pop the grate cover out of its socket. As I reach the final step, he extends his paw for me to grab onto, and pulls me out and up onto my feet. And that's where I'm going to leave this one. So that's the first part of Cleaved. And I want to say that that's like 2/3 of the way through the first build, the initial build that I read like a year ago now, a year and a month actually, because I think it was January, I can't remember. It seems mostly the same, probably a few dialogue options, the fact that Brynn doesn't thirst over Frasier as much. But yeah, so far it seems to be mostly the same, which is, I mean, I didn't mind the beginning of it too much. There were people who were disagreeing with the writing style and the writing choices that were being made. Apparently, Brynn was going to originally be like your bog standard self-insert audience surrogate character, and that's no longer going to be the case. And I think some of the dialogue choices are reflecting that. The sewer scene has some different dialogue choices. Yeah, he's a little bit more blasé about the... Well, I don't want to say blasé, but he's like, oh, this is just great sarcasm rather than gross, 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 gross. Like I remember him to be.
But I'm very excited to see the changes that have been implemented further down the line, because I know there's more to this story now in the public build than there was a year ago when I actually read it. And I'm very excited to get into fully covering it. But I'm going to leave this episode here. Thank you all so much for watching, and thanks again to the comment section for recommending this VN to me. I was going to get to it eventually, but yeah, having the recommendation definitely spurred me on to do it. Yous are reminded in this moment by me to recommend VNs in the comments if you would like me to consider them. I'll have a look into them and see what I can do. I do have plans for more series down the line and can't promise I'll be able to get to everything, but doesn't mean you can't try and I can't have a look-see and see what I think, right? As usual, I will be leaving links in the description to the places where you can support this project, the writer, and also myself. But I'm going to leave this here for now. This has been Pinkwisp, reading Cleaved, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.